Dr. Tate, to Wanda, Kira, and a virtual thank you as well to Demi and Allison, who weren't able to join us today, but their experience still super powerful in the discussion and seeing the videos as well that shared their stories. So I'm now also pleased to welcome our final speakers for today's program, Ramona Bighead and Roberta Yellowhorn. And this last session here is the questions we avoid, trust, transplantation, and First Nations patient and community engagement. So I think we have Ramona on right now. And when Roberta joins us, we can get a quick introduction from her as well. And so the session is meant to be interactive. You have the opportunity, and in fact, for the session to work, we highly encourage you to actively ask questions to Ramona and to Roberta. It can be about their experiences as First Nations donor family and recipient, questions about how to engage First Nations persons with lived experience, and in engaging with community leaders. So yeah, with that, maybe I can pose a first question here to Ramona. The first question I'll start with is researchers want to partner with First Nations communities, but are afraid of making mistakes. What are some common mistakes that you see, and what could researchers do instead?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Glad to rejoin you. I would like for you to hear Roberta's story. So when she does join in, we'll give her that time. But basically, the whole premise behind this session was that idea that there are no taboo questions. So oftentimes I find that non-Indigenous people, not just in health, but also in education, are afraid to ask those questions for fear that they might offend, they might overstep boundaries and protocols. And then as a result of that, they don't ask. As a result of that, they stay back. They won't go there. And so here, is an opportunity for you to ask those questions. And I think it's just that fear of offending, and and we have to understand that not everybody. We all have our own experiences with the healthcare system, and some of it has not been too good. And like I mentioned earlier when I spoke about racism, some of us have experienced that. And so we automatically we come with all of this kind of baggage, but it's not really about like I would say it's not so much cultural differences as it is from the inability to communicate well. So when you heard when Dr. Spence talked about how he approached us, he didn't know me at the time, and now since then it's been about 3 years. We've gotten to know each other a little bit better, and so for me, I think it's really the bottom line in all of this is working hard to develop and foster some positive relationships. Get to know us. So those are my thoughts.
Awesome. Thank you. I was just checking the chat there to see if there was any questions from participants, but none yet. But yeah, I agree. Definitely important for us to ask the questions too. I think, just drawing on my own experience, also being like a donor and having discussions with my family around, the potential to be a donor. It was actually like several of our friends and family members who went to get tested first to see who would be kind of the best match for my brother, and it ended up being my uncle Jim and myself who were the best matches. And my uncle Jim went through the testing first, but kind of part halfway through, maybe he was not able to continue just due to his heart maybe not being strong enough to go through with the surgery, and then I went through testing as well. And, so we had some of those questions just amongst our own family, like, how is it going to affect, my long-term health? And, that was a big concern about, living with one kidney for me, with living kidney donation as well. So having questions like that for the transplant team and the teams that are supporting you when you're going through the process, I think are really important to ask ourselves, and then ask our team members. And then this space is, I think, also for the physicians to, and the transplant teams and the medical teams to ask us as well around some of the um, protocols and things that we do in our lives as First Nations and Métis and Inuit people that are having to go through with transplants. So maybe something else I can ask you, Ramona, is maybe what barriers do you see maybe some First Nations patients face in accessing transplantation that people working within the healthcare system may not acknowledge or understand?
Um, I think it's really just lack of um, I won't say lack of opportunity, but lack of being told about those opportunities. That awareness. I remember Dr. Spence in a previous conversation mentioned that a young man told him, "Yeah, my grandpa couldn't get I don't know if it was a kidney or something." He said he couldn't get it because he was an Indian. And so, on the one hand, see, that's the optics for the indigenous people. Well, it's just because we're Indian or we're indigenous, we're not at the top of the list. But when we understand the background, like what you had talked about, there has to be a match. There has to be, all of the medical, I guess, the logistics surrounding it need to be examined. And I think a lot of times our people don't fully understand that. But again, it goes back to how we were treated. If we were treated with racism in the past, that's how we're going to interpret it.
That's, yeah, really great points, Ramona. Thanks for sharing that as well with us. Um, I see that Roberta has joined us. Hello, Roberta. Just getting situated. Um,
Hi.
hi, Roberta. Hi. Yeah, we haven't met before, so I'll just say a quick introduction. I'm moderating the session today, and my name's Craig Setti. I'm originally from Manitoba. I'm a living kidney donor to my brother, and yeah, so I'm just here to kind of ask
Oh,
some of the questions and
wow.
and
Really
help
exciting.
carry on a conversation. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Nice to meet you. I know
Hmm.
I've been asking a couple questions, and Ramona's been responding, but I wanted to turn it over to you, and maybe if you wanted to share your experience about kidney transplantation, we can hear from you, and then maybe we can continue the conversation from there.
Okay. It was actually be 3.5 years since I got my kidney, January 29th. Um I'm trying to go back 2023, I think was it? Or the beginning of 2023. I was 62 years old. I was just gonna be 63. I'm 66 right now, so I'm around there. I think I'm gonna get mixed up sometimes with my days. But I fought hard to have a kidney. I had a complete kidney failure 2017 Christmas Day. So you can believe I didn't enjoy my Christmas dinner or the next day when my family eats. I was already rushed to the bigger hospital in the city, and then they told me that I had full blown kidney failure, and that was the beginning of my journey. So on January 17th was when I got dialysis. I started my dialysis for a period of about a month, I was in Lethbridge, Alberta. That's where I had to travel over an hour to go to dialysis 3 times a week. So it was quite of a big shock. I was in a full-time job. I had staff under me. I had a lot of warnings prior to that I was going to eventually have a kidney failure. But I just kept working. I've worked all my life. So and it was at that time that my life changed drastically. So I was put on long-term disability, and I was told that I didn't know if I was had a future for a kidney because of my age. But actually, I proved them all wrong. I was very determined. I said I'm an overcomer. I'm very blessed. I have children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. I said no, I'm not giving up. So I started a journey. I was very disciplined. I went and did was I was very good. If you talk to the dialysis unit, I was a modeled dialysis patient. I followed the rules. So it was 2 years. After that, 2019, I got Dr. Wong. Worley Wong asked me if I really wanted a kidney, and I said yes. He said, "Well, we'll award you a kidney. You'll be on the list for a kidney." But before that, I actually had 3 donors step up. I had two relatives. One was my nephew, and one was kind of like a cousin who took us my sister. And then another one was a total stranger. I was adopted. He was from Tennessee, actually, and he came to Alberta to live with his family, and we adopted each other. And he was the one that got the closest kidney to donate. The other two were ruled out. And when the transplant agency told him, "Would you give up your kidney all across Canada somewhere, and we'll put her on top. We'll put your sister on top." And he just said no. He said, "If this kidney's going to go anywhere, it's going to go to my sister." So I ended up having to go back on the transplant list. And then COVID hit. So 2 years, no transplant. So I just continued my dialysis. I was a little wearing down towards about going into my 4th year. I started to have some problems with my dialysis really wears you on your bone structure, and it really brought you down. So but I just kept at it. I just said no, I'm determined. So as soon as COVID was out, I actually was awarded 2 kidneys prior to my kidney that I have. And my kidney, by the way, is called Izzy. So that first one I was awarded had a touch of hepatitis C, and I said no. If I'm going to get a kidney, I'm going to get a good kidney. So the other one that was awarded was that October, and I just said no. It had some complications, and as you know, a cadaver is a really hard. Um, your chances to survive and to have a good kidney are really slim because they're a cadaver. So when I was awarded that one, January, I just got home from dialysis. I actually got home in about 12:30 and had my lunch and kind of slept throughout the day. And then that evening, my family came over and we had supper. So about 7 o'clock that evening, I got a phone call. It was my doctor, Doctor. Uh, what's my doctor's name again? McLaughlin. Oh, McLaughlin, Kevin McLaughlin. He's got a real heavy accent. He says, "Roberta, do you want a kidney?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "Do you want a kidney?" I said, "Of course." He said, "I'll give you 10 minutes." He said, "Tell your family, talk to them." So I have a son that lives in Montana. He's a big coach for basketball. So he was on the court and trying to get a hold of him, trying to get a hold of my other family members. And then I finally got a hold of them. And then he called me back and I said, yes. He said, "Well, you got 4 hours to make it to Calgary, Alberta." It's like a 2.5 hour drive. And the funny thing, when we took off, I had a rental because my vehicle got wrecked out of just a severe wind that came, and it wrecked a lot of vehicles at that time. But I took off in my little rental, and I had my cousin and my sister with me, and we got stopped by the police. We're speeding. So that policeman looked at me and wanted registrations, everything, and then my cousin told her she's getting a transplant. We have to get to Calgary. She didn't even bother writing me a ticket. She said, "Get going then." So we took off to Calgary, and that morning there was two of us that were awarded a kidney. And when I started to ask questions, it was from a young addict. And so I have a very, very tender heart for the addicts out there because of the donation of the kidney. So I was supposed to be on that morning at 7 o'clock, the first person, but I got bumped. The other, I don't know who it was. I never met anybody. They were awarded the first kidney at 7 and mine at 1 o'clock. So when I got Izzy, I named her right away after fried green tomatoes, that old lady that fought hard to resilient and live whatever. I said, I'm giving you this name. So I talked to my kidney. I had a sleeping kidney for about a day. She wouldn't wake up. And finally she did. And I'm telling you, the best thing was to use the bathroom. Because I didn't for some years, for some years, I didn't have the ability to get up and use a bathroom like that. So man, that was such an award, and but it's by my faith and by my prayers, and a lot of people prayed, and I was determined. And a lot of people were shocked. They were just shocked with my story, and they said, "Wow." I met other recipients in there while I was in there. I had trouble with my kidney for the first year. I had a virus. It was called a BK virus. And so I was in and out of the hospital sometimes. I would stay for 2, 3 days, come home. And they really looked after me here. That was when my local, my sister, my late sister who passed away, Patricia, she was the head nurse in our community. And she really looked after me. She had her whole team of people come and they looked after me. So it was a really good thing. But I want to tell you the experience I had when I first got when I first got kidney failure. It was a shock to everybody. People were, my family were very upset, very emotional. But it was my sister that gave me the greatest advice, and I have a friend too. My sister told me, treat it like your best friend. Ask questions. Ask questions about dialysis. Get to know dialysis. Ask about that machine. Ask about everything. So I did. That's how I understood what that machine did for my body, how it kept me alive, how I had to be very strict with my diet, with my intake. And the other one was my friend. She told me, "You're still in the land of the living." She said, "You have to beat it. You got to get up every day and beat this. If you're determined, then you're gonna see your one day you're gonna experience it." So it's been great. It's just that I get a little tired, like I'm an early bird. I'm up 5:30, 6:30, or some of that. So by afternoon, I need to take a nap. I have to have a little nap. But I'm telling you, I'm still resilient. Last 2 years, I've been sitting on the board. I chair a board of education. I work in the community for disabilities. I really advocate for the elders, and I really advocate for the kidney and heart in our community and everywhere because I believe you're if you're a survivor, I believe by somebody giving you another chance to live. Oh, that's just so awesome. Every morning I pray for that recipient. I pray for his family. He or she, I never got a chance to know anything about this person, but I pray for them. I pray for those addicts on the street. I pray for all those people that have it tough out there and they don't even realize they're so young. They're so young and they have so much to live for, but yet this addict gave up two beautiful kidneys. I have not met the other recipient. I don't think I would, but I asked one time Is there a chance that I could meet the other recipient? If not, the family, but they said no, not at this time. They were very adamant and not releasing any information at that time. But I know for myself, I've really gone through, like, I have diabetes. I believe I had junior diabetes. If not, I had big babies, and I wasn't diagnosed till later in my life. I think I was almost 35 years old. And I'm telling you, I think it's the misdiagnosed. I think people don't go to the doctor enough and they don't ask questions. So I really advocate for anyone out there, ask questions. Ask why you're going through this. Ask why you're not feeling good. Get to the bottom of why your health is the way it is. I never drank, never smoked, but I came from my mother was a diabetic. Out of 12 children, only two of us were became diabetics. So I kind of had a different kind of life during, but I had a busy life. I worked all through my life, sometimes two jobs. I was a single parent, so sometimes I think the wear and tear of your body, and then they started giving us generic drugs. That's why I'm going to advocate for the First Nation people of Canada. Why do we have to have generic drugs? Now that I'm a transplant recipient, I have the best drugs because that's what's offered to me. But look at all the other chronic illnesses throughout our communities. They get the generic stuff. We can't, we're on the, I don't know, it's still FNIB, but I really advocate for that too. But I know in my life, I'm very fortunate. I know for one thing, I am blessed because I don't just get up every day. I'm thankful. I'm so thankful for the washroom. You don't know what it is. I was just shocked when my kidney came along. It was woke up. I guess I was determined. I got up. I wanted to walk. I said, "No, I want to walk. I want to be able to beat this." I've had some trouble since then with my bones because you lose the density in your bones. You lose a lot because you're on dialysis. Takes a lot of those calcium out of your body. So I've had some breaks. I have a bad ankle today, so I'm on a walker. But I've embraced it. I've embraced everything because I go out there and I'm a part of everything because I embrace it. So I would like to leave you with a strong message. I had some few young people I met at blood work that were going for liver transplants. And I told them, look at me, look at how old I am. I'm a survivor. I said, you can do it. I said, you're only 30 some years old, some are 40. I said, you can do it. But I advocated for them. I said, go and get it done. You got to be a young body. You can still fight it. So every day I live with that, and I'm appreciative every day of Izzy. Sometimes I have conversations with her. She's quite the I know sometimes I feel that she's not happy. Some days I feel her because I have this kidney. It's in front of me. It's not in the back anymore. And so the other two are just cheerleaders. They're just there cheering us on, and so it's a good journey. But the prayer that I pray is that every successful candidate that gets a kidney or any kind of organ, living or a cadaver, they they be successful. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Roberta, for sharing your experience in 3 years. Wow, that's awesome to hear.
Hmm.
My brother and I's kidney transplant anniversary is October 18th, and ours was in 2013. So this year will be the 13th year of
Wow.
our transplants. So they can
Mhm.
they can last a long time. And nice to hear the name as well, Izzy. I love the name and the reference to fried green tomatoes. I remember my mom watching that movie growing up, so I'm familiar with fried green tomatoes and all the shenanigans that happen in the movie.
Yeah.
In Anishinaabe, mun say odud kuswan for kidney. So I always shorten it, and I tell my brother, "How's the dude doing?" How's my kidney doing, the dude? So yeah, it's good to name name, the donated organs that we might be receiving, and to do those types of things as well. And so I think it's a practice, but there's also cultural practices. So maybe something I could ask of you and Roberta as well is about some healthcare providers worrying about asking patients about cultural practices because they don't want to offend. Maybe how would you like healthcare teams to approach conversations about ceremonies, elders, traditional healing, or spiritual needs?
Well, we still live in a very diverse community, also, like people, and I believe some people reach out, ceremonial, whatever they feel. But I have a faith, and I've lived my faith all my life, and it's a way of life. It's not I don't go around whatever saying all this and that about it. But I guess I walk my talk in that way, but I believe there is people that need that extra, like extra help or whatever. And the one thing I know is that the health center has been very Algonquin Health Center here in our community has been very open to those kind of things, probably. But I know that people around me are, sometimes they get shy. A lot of our people are introverts, and a lot of chronic illnesses make you very desolate. They make you feel like you're not a part of something. And that was my challenge to the health team there, was to go out and visit those people that don't have that opportunity, and maybe ask some of those questions, and maybe include them in things. But I think it's really important when you talk to somebody in your own language and they understand you better, or the interpretation is better. It's a lot better. And like, I'm really grateful that I had two First Nation nurses working with me when I got home. The other team members were all non-native, and they came and they were good at what they do. They're specialists in their field, but it felt so warm and knowing that your own people can look after you. And today I still have the same nurse, checks on me every 3 weeks and comes and does my vitals, does everything. So I'm really grateful for that. But as far as the cultural practices, I believe it's there. So I think it's open to anybody that wants to have that in their life.
For sure. Yeah, I know. Like with my brother and I as well, we went to some of our ceremony family as well, and also went to Sundance, and prayed and asked for some of that guidance in
Mm-hmm.
that space as well, and received some answers and some traditional medicines that we could use. And I know my brother used some of those teas that were offered as well, and just let the medical team or his team know as well, like that he's taking some of his medication and how it might interact too. So those are some of the ceremonies that we attended, and some of the traditional medicine that we accessed as
Mm-hmm.
well. And so it's important to still lean into our culture and lean on our medicine people as well, because there's still a lot of benefit for us to use both options that are available to us, I think. So yeah, I just wanted to share my personal experience with
That's
that as
good.
well.
Yeah. When I was first a diabetic, really bad, when I first really got diagnosed, I tried some of those herbal teas and herbal stuff that they were given. It was good. It kind of worked for a little bit on my on my diabetes, but I
Hmm.
did have those teas. They used to boil up sage and all that kind of stuff. So I was aware of that kind of stuff happening at that time. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, something else that's coming to mind for me too is I remember when my brother, we didn't have the transplant yet, but he was still I think maybe about a teenager, maybe like 12 or 13 or maybe even 14. And I was with my mom and him, and we were there for one of his appointments. And there was there's often like research or researchers sometimes that ask questions about recruitment for some of the clinical trials or some of the research that they're doing. And so someone did come in and like ask a question about that, and then the person who ended up coming to like do some of the draws before answering the question about research happened to be one of my high school friends' moms, who was she was a nurse, and she knew my family and my brother, and we told her that we were asked to like participate in research, and she just said, honestly, if you don't feel comfortable, don't do it. Like that's simply all you have to say is no, I don't want to participate if you're unsure. And so maybe a question I have on here too is researchers sometimes ask, how do we recruit Indigenous participants? Is that the right question to ask, or should they be asking something different?
Well, I know transplant was a taboo in some ways, but I don't know why they thought they couldn't give their organs when they die. Hey, that's been a taboo for a long time. But when somebody comes to you and they ask you, like I just went out there, I just said, if anybody's willing to donate a kidney, please. I had a friend actually. He passed away. He advertised his in the back of his truck, and he was awarded a kidney, but that's when COVID hit, and the duration of COVID, his heart got bad, so he couldn't, and he's since now passed. But as far as researchers, I don't mind being asked, like what has to be done or what information. But now that I've lived my life to what it is, I think knowledge and wisdom and what you do as a person, especially a First Nation person, is really crucial today. And I think that's what, if you can offer some of that to whatever research that has to be done, well, by all means, give that opportunity, because there's nowhere else that we're going to ever see that. And because we live in a different, I guess, stream of whatever life we live here in our communities, it's still fast paced for some of us, but we still live in a very poverty stricken, low economics and all that, and yet people out there don't understand. But we're a world within our own self, but we've survived. Look at us, we're resilient. And that's what I kept thinking when I was going through my journey. We're resilient. We can go through anything. But to be out there, to be researched and all that, by all means, we're all human. Human. We're all equal. It doesn't. We're not one is above the other, but it's just that our situations are different. So it'll be good to see what they have. They come up with the research for our First Nation, like transplant recipients or donors or anything like that. Because I don't hear a lot of people donate there. Just Ramona. Whenever I met Ramona, beautiful, beautiful story. She's only the first one I've met that have donated, and her daughter donated her organs. But as far as I'm concerned, I've never heard anybody else.
Yeah, I got to hear her story earlier today too, and moderating the conversation between her and the physician as well that kind of helped her family along that journey. Um, Maybe I could ask another question then around research and healthcare providers. Maybe if you could ask researchers and healthcare providers and transplant programs one uncomfortable question that they need to answer honestly, what would it be?
Um, what determines you as a person for your eligibility? I know what it is, but I think they could work around it. I think, like, we shouldn't have specialists just say no as soon as they look at your file and say, oh no, they don't have this, they don't have that. I think if you open the door to a little bit more, because I was really shocked when I was talking about my colleague there who passed away when he was given a chance to have a kidney. That doctor didn't even see him. He just got a phone call and got told, "No, you're not a recipient because of your heart." And he couldn't figure it out. He said, "Why did um, the last specialist tell me that I was an advocate? I mean, I could have got a kidney, but he then all of a sudden somebody told him no." And I really fought hard for him to get back in there, ask those questions, ask for some. I even told him to ask my doctor because I had already met my doctor then. And I said, ask my specialist, see if you can get a hold of him. Because I believe that's what the eligibility, like, what is it? Yeah, I knew it going into my journey. That whole year, that to test me, that to do this was my heart. My heart. Everything was my heart. If I didn't have a good heart, I wouldn't have been a recipient today. That flow has to happen throughout my body. And I was told that they didn't look at my age anymore. They said, "No, you're a good candidate. We'll do it." And because of my livelihood. So what determines a person's eligibility by their livelihood? Like that's a tough one, I think, you know, especially for First Nations because we're very high on diabetes. Like, is it our food intake? You know, it's like feast or famine on the reserve,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah, that is a really good question. I'm glad you posed that one, the eligibility requirements.
Hmm.
I think I have a question as well in the chat that I don't think I asked that kind of is along those same lines. It's from Raj. They ask, what's the best way to engage with community leaders who may not be open to discussions on organ donation? How do you open the conversation in a sensitive way?
Well, as far as leadership is concerned, I used to be a leader one time. I was voted in on like 2001. I think it's concerned because you're there for the people, right? You get voted in for the people. And so by that you should be your main interest is the people. So I think somebody should just come and ask them, this is for the vitality of your nation. You know, this is for something that's going to be looked at in the long run. You know, you're going to be, you know, people may have their traditional views of asking why you want to transplant, why you want to donate one, but I really look at that person, like say, hey, you could save some lives, you know, you could save five, six lives, you could save eight lives, you know. But I think just by telling them it's for your people, because that's the best interest. That's why they're voted in is for the people. They're not voted in for anything else. You know, they're there to look. They're the grandfathers and grandmothers of the community, so they have to look out for them. So I think just by opening a conversation that says, you know, do you care for your community? Yeah. Do you care for your people? Because that's what it is, you know. And then sure, people are gonna have their own little I guess their own because people don't know. You need to open the door for awareness. You need to open the door for people to say, "Hey, now I know what a transplant is," or "Hey, now I know what a donor looks like," you know, or "Now I know what it is in this whole process of kidney and donor. And now I know what it is." But that awareness has to go out because that's when people start to understand. Because as far as you know, people are just shocked and I go walking, and a lot of people know my story. I've said it a few times. Harley knows that. I see Harley's on here, but I go through Pincher Creek. I used to work in Pincher Creek, our local town, and I worked there for many years, almost 20 years. In my earlier life, and there's people that would walk up to me, "Oh, hi, how are you still doing?" And I just tell them, you know, I'm a kidney recipient. What? You know, they're just shocked because people, because I think our leadership needs to respect the fact that things are changing, technology is changing. Look, it's just nothing for us to get transplants today. And at one time, there was a lady that lived in our community. She had a transplant for 17 years. She got to be an elder, and she was probably one of our first recipients. There was another lady earlier, but she didn't live very long. She had home dialysis, and then she wasn't awarded a kidney yet. So those kind of people I look at, and I like their stories. So it'd be nice to have booklets or storytelling to even our community. Like we've had now a lot of transplants. There's been liver transplants. There's been kidney transplants. I haven't heard of anything else. I was told that there might be a pancreas transplant, and I think those stories need to be brought out so leadership will know. Hey, So, but the leaders that I function with today, I go in to see them. They're very, very honored that I'm there with them because they see the resilience in me and they say, "Wow, you came through." So I think it's just that awareness too, that information that has to flow first.
For sure. Thank you so much for that answer. I definitely, yeah, agree with you. Leadership, and I think that's the focus of today. Is there's a number of digital stories that have been shared as well. So, having resources and folks that um, continue to share our stories around transplant and being recipients and donors and caregivers are definitely instrumental in, sharing the message on the next people in our communities that might need support in a transplant journey. I see that Sandra has a hand up. Sandra, did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, thanks, Craig, and thanks, Roberta. Yeah, I just wanted to address one of the things that we were hoping to capture in this end of the session. So, Dr. Carolyn Tate has done an amazing job reaching out to her community and that, but there's many people. In research across transplant and healthcare in general, that I always hear like, oh, we need more Indigenous people at the table. We need to engage with Indigenous people. So my knowledge that I've learned from knowing Indigenous people, mostly my friend Mary Bukaj and the people at Can Solve and others that I've met, is that first of all, I think that we should take the knowledge training. I did the one through Sanjus, the cultural safety training. And once you get an understanding of the history of our Indigenous people, and we spoke about it, a few comments today were made about being researched on, not getting access, being the way that well, we read it on the news, are treated in healthcare systems and stuff. So I think once we learn that, then I've always said that we need to go and build, and it's like any community, we need to go to them and build that relationship and build those trust. And there was an elder that I met at a CanSol meeting, and she said that, trust and building a relationship takes 20 cup of tea. It doesn't just take, well, I have this research project and I need people, Indigenous people that I need to be involved. Well, can you be involved? It takes the relationship building in that. So something we can think about the next couple of days. But I know that there's a lot of people online that, and we want to be cautious too. And, because of the history, we want to be able to do that in a fair, transparent, and trying to think of the word, like truthful way, like doing it in good means. I'm on dialysis right now, then my brain's gone, but yeah, so
Wow.
I just finished. Okay, so thank you. Thank you, Craig. You
You
did a
know
great job.
one thing I've seen because I've been a political leader. I've been leaders in a lot of different things in my community. But one thing that I know we don't like as First Nations is we don't see results. We can be researched, we could be surveyed. Some say they have consultation with us, but we don't see results. And sometimes those results, they're monetary, they're money. I'll just come right out tell you. If they're proposing a dialysis unit in our community, well, they should hurry up and get it done because Time's a wasting because dialysis patients don't usually last that long, and I've known that. I went to dialysis. I've pretty well lost a lot of people to dialysis. So you need to see results. And those results come with, yes, First Nations at the table, First Nations negotiating, First Nation being an advocate, First Nation being the go to people, like, hey, let's get a hold of this one. They know they got, they know their stuff. But we are a nation within ourselves. And it's hard sometimes to negotiate. Like, the provincial government doesn't do much to us. I'm just grateful that I'm looked after in the province of Alberta as a transplant recipient, and that I get top-notch drugs or whatever prescriptions. I just give a call and they'll have it to me right then. But in Canada, we're federal. We're federal First Nation. A lot of us are taken care of by the government of the federal government. And so I think they need to be very much more sympathetic to the healthcare system that's been evolving now. Like, I fought hard for those not being on gin. It is why I didn't want to take metformin. I fought against metformin for a long time because I didn't believe it was that good for you. I wanted insulin. I said, I want to be on insulin. And so I think these kind of things, a lot of the leaders in our community, a lot of our leaders outside the community, a lot of people that sit around the table, probably analyze us, should know that we have a say. It's the 21st century. We got lawyers, doctors, we have everybody. We have a say, and that's what we need to do. That's the attitude out there, I feel. And I believe in building relationships, just like what we were saying. I believe it starts with a conversation. It starts with a Zoom meeting like this. It starts with something small. When you start to gradually build, yes, but those people have to be, the right people have to be at the table. I always see that in anything I've done in my life. And the many we have two brand new schools coming up. We had to have the right people at those negotiating tables to do it. And I think it has to happen like that with this program. And I'm a strong advocate for the First Nation people, especially in our community. The gimmick beats, I always say the gimmick beats, the humble ones, the ones that don't talk. We have to be their voice. And so I sit on another committee with disabilities, and disabilities fighting to even get money for us to have a disability. Like, being on dialysis is a disability because you need ramps for those people. You need all this. You have to advocate. So I've been out there advocating for my community because I see that. But we have to see results. That's when you research us, research whatever we have, open minded. I'm a very open person. I'm not one to go out. I have a lot of, I interact with so many different people, but I'm not one. I'm not a judge. I'm not anything. I don't throw things aside. If it's a good idea to promote something, I'm on it. But I think we have to be at the table. So thank
Sure.
you. That was a good one. Yeah. I got
Awesome.
political there. Sorry.
It's okay. We need those discussions as well as part of
Yeah.
these types of journeys, right? It does go to policies, and it does go to the political
Yes.
ways too. So
Yes.
it's a
Yes.
part of the process and a part of the conversations that we need to have. So, Roberta, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story and experiences, and also just dropping so much knowledge on us here today to take away and utilize as well in our circles as well. So I really appreciate having the time to
Yeah.
speak with you today, and I'm sure everybody who's here also is appreciative as well. So thank you so much, Roberta. Yeah, hopefully see you down the road sometime and be able to meet. I think
Yeah, well, I'm very open. My schedule sometimes gets crazy, but I'm very open to whatever has to be done in the future, and I'm available for whatever it takes, to get the message out. So thank you.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.